As a physician, your income is not defined by your specialty. It's defined by establishing your expertise and how much value you provide to the marketplace. Not sure what I'm talking about? Join me with my friend Alex Nghiem and we'll discuss on this episode of Bootstrap MD. Hey guys, this is Dr. Mike Wuming with Bootstrap MD. Real excited today. We've got a awesome guest here on this episode. He's a good friend of mine, Alex. But I think we've known each other, what, 10, 15?
Yeah, at least 10 to 12 years, at least, since early
15 years. I don't even know. I think
lost track.
I think we met at a marketing conference. But I want to let you guys know about my friend Alex. His name is Alex Nghiem. And he is a in-demand business strategist. He helps his clients build 7-figure expert lifestyle businesses with a focus on programs at $5,000 to up to $100,000 per sale. I've always told you guys that you need to focus on higher ticket items if you really want to make a dent in your income. He's generated over $40 million in sales for his clients, including New York Times bestselling authors. I didn't even know this. He worked with marketing leaders like Sally Hogshead, Scott Hallman, who's a 2-time Inc. 500 CEO, Vin Cardillo, well-known Inc. 500 co-founder, raised $150 million by companies. Larry Benet, also a good friend of mine, co-founder of Sang and recognized by Forbes as one of the 25 most connected people on the planet. He's published 4 books. One of them is called Expert Riches, which I have a copy of. He shared the stage with Dan Kennedy, George Foreman, and he's guest lectured at the SP Jain School of Global Management, one of the top MBA schools in Asia. So that's a pretty impressive bio you got there, but he's also a really, really cool guy. And I'm actually lucky. He'll be actually speaking at my event that's coming up in January, which is called BootcampMD. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. But Alex, thanks for coming on to the call today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Mike. Always a pleasure to reconnect with you, and also anything I can share with your audience would be awesome.
So, Alex, I want to talk about. I gave you the bio, but I know you didn't start out that way. You didn't start out working with these top level folks, and I know you've also told me just before the call you've worked with a number of healthcare professionals as well, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm having you speak at BootcampMD. But how did you kind of get started with this? What was your origin story, so to speak?
Sure. So I'll keep it to my, probably my high school and college, and that past there. So people are shocked to find this out sometimes, but I have a degree in computer science. And the reason this is relevant is because I haven't written a line of, programming or code, as they, it's the lingo, in probably 15 plus years. I have, I work with programmers today and they're shocked, like, you're a coder? You don't know anything about tech. And that's by choice, because I found that while I enjoy that, it ran its course, right? But here's the thing that's very important. I tell folks, Mike, and I think that your audience would appreciate this. Even though I don't technically write programs anymore or code, it's kind of lingo, they call them coders. I still use the same analytical skills I had from basically having a degree in computer science, because that's one of the things that computer science teaches you is how to analyze problems, and in many cases how to get stuff done very systematically and in a very, very step-by-step process. I say this because, as you were alluding to, after I was a programmer, I basically worked at IBM and a couple of companies for several years. I realized I wanted to do my own thing, and I realized that. Like a lot of people, then I became an independent IT consultant. Did it for about 5 years, enjoyed it, made really good money. But I kept noticing that I was really keep peaking out, because I kept finding out it's getting harder and harder to get excited, even though my pay was really, really good. And I took a step back and said, what did I really enjoy doing? And there was a series of process, which I'll get more at the event, but I'll touch on it a little bit now. I have a process where I take inventory of the skills that I have, what the market demand is, and what do I enjoy doing. Ideally, you want an intersection of all those three, right? So let me repeat that real quickly. What are you good or great at? What do you enjoy doing? And what's the market demand? That last one's very, very critical, because there's a lot of advice out there about just do what you love and the money will follow. My experience today, it isn't that easy. There's some truth to that. It's very simple. It's a very, very Pollyannish or very simplified version of what really happened. So back to what I was doing, I realized that, hey, I'm really good at problem solving, but I actually brought those skills to sales and marketing, right? I approach marketing and sales with like a process versus, being like just really gregarious person or whatever. And so I realized that, hey, the same skill that basically that served me really, really well when I was a programmer, I can leverage to other industries. And having done this for myself multiple times and working with multiple people, I came up with this whole process that you alluded to for expert riches, right? A lot of the clients that come to me, they may want to grow their existing business, but I also work with a number of people in the medical industry where they find that medicine or basically being a healthcare professional or a doctor is not as exciting or as enjoyable as it used to be for a variety of reasons. And they come to me and say, I want to basically do something, but I don't want to go, I go to a lot of boot camps or internet marketing classes. They say, well, just go find something that people are buying and sell that. Well, most of my patients, they still want to feel like they contribute to the world. So they can't really get excited coming out of bed and say, let's go start an Amazon business selling socks. They're like, okay, I didn't spend, 8, 12 years of medical school, right, and then, God knows how many more years of post that. I mean, the money's good, but they can't get excited about that. So they want to do something that still leverage their skills. They may be in a second phase of their life, but so it has to be something they enjoy doing, what they're good or great at, and again, the market demand. And so by going through a systematic process like that, I've done this, a number of times with different clients, including myself. And as you alluded to, though, these folks, they're doing, they're making good money. So they don't have, they're in their 50s or 60s. They don't want to basically pay their dues to start at the bottom, which is traditionally people go back to school, do all of this, which again is great for a lot of folks. But for the folks I work with, they're at the point in their life where they feel like, I've already paid my dues, right? I've already spent, I know your background, you and I'm sure a lot of folks who have done the 60, 80, sometimes 100 hours a week. And maybe right now, that's not really in the cards anymore. So how do they basically, why not start at the top end of the industry? Don't necessarily start at the bottom. And so what we do is we try to figure out how to basically start somewhere in the middle so that they can, basically either create a side income that, they can supplement their existing business. But many of the folks that come to me say it has to start side income, but over time, I like it to somehow eventually replace my full-time income. That was actually what Sally tasked me with. Sally Hogshead, she was already making several $1 million as a keynote speaker, but lifestyle-wise, she was on the road all the time. So she said, I know how to be, she's a world-class keynote speaker. I don't want to misrepresent. I had nothing to do with her being a world-class keynote speaker.
Right.
But she asked me to say, I would like to figure out another income stream if I ever want to kind of, curb back my really heavy travel schedule. I can replace, this very large income that I make speaking with another income stream. You see? So a lot of the medical professionals, and since most of the folks are medical professionals, I'll keep it to that. That's kind of the task that I'm usually tasked with, like doing something at least in the low to mid 6 figures on the side, and then over time maybe exceeding that, and then if they're willing to build it out, maybe well into the high 6-figure, and in some cases even 7-figure businesses. And I call them lifestyle businesses because it has to support their lifestyle, right? Could be that they already have, kids are still, that they're still caring for, or like their kids maybe have a very heavy schedule currently with their current profession. So these are a lot of factors that take into account. What works for one person wouldn't necessarily work for somebody else because of lifestyle trade-offs or lifestyle trade-offs they're willing to make or not make, as the case may be.
That's awesome. I think one of the things that you alluded to is that feeling of what I call sunk costs, is that they spent all this time in medical school, they spent all that money, all that time in training, and then they don't want to do other things that maybe not related, and they feel that if they don't do something in medicine or medically related, that they wasted. And that's not necessarily the case. I've gone into different niches that have nothing to do with medicine, but in the past, when talking with other doctors, they love medicine. They didn't love what medicine was doing to you, but they have all of that knowledge. And if they keep saying, if you keep saying the same thing again and again to patients, that is a great idea for you to take that and to use that knowledge and to go into other avenues that may be more lucrative. Can you give me examples of, what would you say to a doctor who's watching this right now? Maybe they're really, really busy and they feel like, how much time can I devote to this? How would you first, and I'm sure you've come across this question a lot. What does it take to become an expert, or is it 10,000 hours? What is the exact number to actually establish yourself?
Right. So I love that book. I think was it Malcolm Gladwell that said that, right?
Right, the tipping point.
I have a
Yeah.
slightly different take on it in that, the fact that you're a doctor puts you already in the upper, depending on what part of the world you're in, half 1%, half of 1% level of discipline or whatever. I mean, even med school just by its nature, it's very, very demanding, right?
Hmm.
So having said that, there are ways to re-leverage that skill. So that's what I meant. I say that you want to make you want to balance expectation, right? Because it's hard to transition being at the top of one field to another field, right? So what I tell folks that there will be a gradual process. However, that doesn't mean you have to start at the bottom either, because this is what the biggest fear everybody has. So I'll use an example of a client of mine, right? He's in Canada, medical doctor, and his disenchantment was I won't get into it, but it's like just there's certain things that he wanted to do that he felt he couldn't do necessarily as a traditional doctor. So he got into wellness coaching. And so here's the thing: is even better than I do, Mike. In Canada, it's socialized medicine. So right out of the gate, he's capped on what he can make, right? And it's literally illegal, or very lot of red tape to charge more. And also, he wasn't allowed to really do stuff that he felt was actually more benefit to the patient. So what we did is said, well, there's a very large, and this is, only one example. I'll share more, but there's a very large group of folks that want to do, alternative medicine. In his case, he'd already kind of started going down that path. So it wasn't like he had to, he was already using his practice, right? So one of the things we looked at saying, well, there's a very large audience of people interested in alternative, maybe preventive medicine, right? And so what we did there is we leveraged the fact that he already has a doctor. I mean, as a doctor overall, it's one of the most trusted professions around. Mainly because that's just how we're conditioned from childbirth, right? I mean, the joke is like, who else can get a billionaire to kind of drop their drawers, right? Well, probably only his medical doctor. Everybody else is going to say, go take a hike. Not even a fellow billionaire can do that. So as a doctor, you have already a lot of authority, which is really, really critical. When as we alluded to, when the goal is to really have a business that, think of the concierge medicine model, right? The goal is to work with a handful of clients. Now, there's different, variation in this model, but the goal is not to come out with like a $5 or $20 book and sell 100,000 copies of that. That model works, but it's insanely complex, and it's a lot of infrastructure, and it's a very long ramp-up period. Instead, the goal is to find, so back to this example, right? In his case, what I do is I go through this process. I'll kind of fast track a little bit. The goal is to find people that have money to spend, that even a small improvement or an incremental improvement can make a big difference. And at the risk of sounding too Machiavellian, the idea is like if you could target business people, because they can quantify that they only pay a lot more, right? So almost every one of my clients, I tell them this, and sometimes it comes out maybe a little bit skewed, so I may have to repeat it more than once. Is it's far better to package your program and figure out a way to see if it's possible to tie it to a business benefit. So using health as an example, right? So just again, just kind of a little bit, kind of an extreme version here, but think about, say, for example, a college couple. Even if you could treat them, it's unlikely they can afford concierge medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a judgment call. It's just a practical economic reality. So concierge medicine by its nature works with a small handful of clients. So I'm not suggesting you launch a concierge medicine business, but the concept of concierge medicine has a lot of practicality, because the goal is to work with a much smaller audience. I knew somebody who transitioned their practice from, I think it was several thousand patients down to like 500. They worked far fewer hours, and they made a lot more, and there was a lot less headaches. So in this case, the idea is to work with somewhere between 20, maybe 100 clients. In this case, we can't call them patients anymore, because most likely, you're not going to be a doctor. But the idea is you're using the same skills, right? So take this example. In his case, what I did say, we can show you how to contact wellness centers, get speaking opportunities locally, get an assistant, pay them $10, $12 an hour, speak at, local wellness centers. They're always welcome. They'll always want to have experts come in, right? And so that's a start. And then he goes in there, and then invariably somebody will say, man, I really like what you have to say. I would much rather work with someone like yourself than go to a major hospital. Again, there's not, for certain audiences, that's not as attractive. So for him, we basically started with working with a client between $3,000 and $5,000. Most of my clients, I usually tell them to do something like a variation, like a half-day consulting, right? Usually start at least, between $1,000 and $3,000. I actually prefer them to charge more, But most of my clients, when they first hear this, they're shocked. Like, who's going to pay me $1,000, $3,000? I mean, I don't make that in a day right now. I mean, like, it just,
Right.
there's all this noise, right? So fine, let's just start you at $1,000, $3,000 over time as they get comfortable. It's not that their skills have improved that much. It's just as they get more comfortable people paying this, then I show them how to raise their fees. But this is how you can get to six-figure in the, you know, low, by low, I mean between 100 to 250 a year relatively quickly. Because you basically, each of your clients paying you between, you know, again, between 1,000, 3,000 for a couple hours of consulting. And again, keep in mind, we're not going after the masses here. This is the key, right? We're going after business owners where, in this case, their health is very, very critical. Because if they're out for a day or two, their business, I mean, you run a business, right? But what's the opportunity cost? You know, I mean, your business is a little bit more hands-on, but what's the opportunity cost of somebody who's running a business doing, say, $1 million and they're gone for a couple of days because of poor health? Or worse, they have this recurring throughout the year. The economic impact is far greater than that, right? And so that's why it's better, not better, but it's more straightforward to sell to business owners. You could quantify your benefit, and then, but more importantly, they have the practical means to pay you. What I tell people is this: if you're having trouble selling big ticket programs, more often than not, the other party just can't afford it. That's it. It's not, there's no judgment call. There's nothing cosmic. It's just they flat out practically are not in a position to pay that. And so a lot of time I see people that struggle with the ideas I share that, well, that didn't work. It's like, who are you selling to? Well, I was selling to these people I knew. It's like, but that's not the target audience. Those are people you know, but economically, that's not a fit for what you're doing, right? And so and a lot of people, they make it more complicated. But, you know, I'll just take kind of pause and see if that makes sense.
No, that's great. And, you know, just my own personal example, you know, we have patients who like are, you know, they're pretty affluent, and it's like just the act of going in and seeing the doctors. You're driving there, you make the point, you're driving in, you're in the waiting room, and you're coming in for, you know, a simple lab test or whatever it is, and then you have to drive back home. That's a lot of, you know, time that's spent. And when you have patients who are busy CEOs, they just want convenience, and it doesn't matter what the cost is going to be. You know, why do they have to do that? And then you can charge a prime price for that. And I think another thing where doctors we have these beliefs, these self-limiting beliefs as well. You know, I would never pay for that, or I can't see other patients paying for that, and it's not going to work for me. The thing is people don't understand is that, you know, you're doing the same thing. And would you rather get paid, you know, $10 for a visit, or would you rather get paid $100, $200 or more? And that's what you're alluding to about a lifestyle business. And for that concept, I think that's still not really cemented in a lot of doctors' mind. Can you give me more examples of forming a lifestyle business based upon being an expert?
Sure. So what you said is very critical. So I'll get back to it. But it's that one of the biggest epiphanies I had, you know, 15 years ago is a lot of time is what you charge a lot more is a function of who you sell to. So this sometimes, you know, it goes against almost everything we know about education, right? It's like, you know, basically you're kind of paid, you love expertise, which is true. But a lot of time you're also a function of who you sell to, right? So that being the case. So the idea of this process of being an expert, part of it is an identity, because we're taught, you know, especially you and I, both of Asian descent, Mike, so I had to overcome this a lot more than probably most, right? Is we're taught to be humble. We say, well, it seems a little like braggadocious or basically inappropriate to brag.
Right.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about you've earned this. You're a doctor. You've been, I suspect most of the people in your audience, Mike, they're not, you know, somebody who's from crash from med school, right? Is they've had 10, 20 years. Well, that right there is a designation of an expert. If you don't like it, if the term expert still kind of doesn't sit well with you, specialist. There's no way you can deny that you're not a specialist. I mean, the fact you're a doctor makes you a specialist, you see? So that's what I tell people. The term expert, it's just so uncomfortable. It causes, you know, maybe physical, you know, discomfort. Think of yourself as a specialist, right? Now, again, this is the thing. The fact that you have those skills, you want to, you know, position that. Now, when you leverage this, the fact that you're a doctor into other professions, it's critically important that you bring that authority over. It doesn't mean that you're basically a doctor in this new field, because that's part of what we're talking about, right? Reinventing yourself in another field. But the fact is that most people, by their nature, again, unless they're very strange childhoods, by their nature, accept the fact that a doctor is a specialist, or even a general MD, right? You don't have to be, for example, like an eye surgeon, or as I was joking, Mike, I found there's a hand surgeon, right? Figure that. I mean, for a guy like me, we don't know.
You know about that,
but
right.
the fact you're a doctor, for the folks you're selling to, that makes you a specialist. The key then is, how do you leverage? Because again, you have different types of specialties, right? The one I used was really health. But if you're basically doing, not necessarily related to health, something else, then you still want to leverage that. The key is to find out what's in your background. This is, again, it's why I have to be a little bit generic. The key is to have an understanding. See, you're going to have a far easier time transitioning if you can tie your solution to an existing pain point. By pain, I don't mean a physical pain like doctors used to, but a gap or basically a deficiency in the market, right? So most people, I use health because it's the broadest one. Generally speaking, most people, again, unless they're self-delusional, would at least acknowledge on some level that they could do a better job of basically taking care of their health, right? Mm-hmm. So that can basically, then you reverse engineer that. It could be a number of things. It could be a nutritional program. It could be accountability. It could be like, I have a client right now. They basically decided to focus on the mental side of things, right? They're not psychologists, but they find a lot of time when they treat patients, they have to get them to kind of change certain habits. Well, they found out, hey, that's actually very practical in corporations where people a lot of time have very poor habits. And so they took that, and then they converted this, and then they targeted a narrow niche, which is sales professionals. Sales professionals that have really bad habit cost companies a lot of money, right? Because that means they can't sell, right? And so if you go to somebody who's got even a small sales team, you're like, look, basically, if your salespeople exhibit any of these, things like perfectionism, procrastination, whatever, it's gonna be expensive. I know how to address that.
Right.
Then you see, so then that's what I mean when I say that, and again, some of this does require, working with somebody like myself or you, but the idea is at the event, I can name between 5 and 7 very universal business deficiencies that if you could figure out a way to tie what you do to at least, to one of those 5 or 7, you'll be literally light years ahead of a lot of folks. Because otherwise people say, well, I used to do this, and they carry that identity, or they try to do that exact same skills. And what I'm saying is that there's a set of skills you're doing one layer below that's transportable. So you have to think of that you're already a specialist, and you're already seeing people that's paying you money. So that model already exists here. All I'm saying is that there's things that you're doing right now, your daily, maybe weekly routine, that if you basically take to a business setting with business people, they'll pay you for it.
Yeah, just one example, like, we've been talking about medicine, and we've been talking about doing health coaching, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, as you were saying, that you were just an expert in that. Let's say if you did really, really well in, medical billing, or if you had an experience with, for myself, I know about building cash-based medical practices. Mm-hmm. Even the famous doctor who wrote the Checklist Manifesto. Mm-hmm. It's well known that you need to have a checklist in medicine, and when you're going through a code or something like that. And then he's taken that information and now applies it to the business world, and it's pretty.
Oh, it's a runway success. That's a great example. So it could be not. That's a great example. So it could be not necessarily your discipline itself. It could be like maybe a couple key processes you're doing, and we do this. It's just human nature, right? It's like we discount what we know or what we do, and so like that checklist. If you and I hadn't seen the book, we're like, you're kidding, right? But it's so primarily basic. Like I have a friend, again, a different field, but he was a fighter pilot. Right. And fighter pilots, before they jump in a $30 million jet, they do checklists. So he's teaching this stuff that Air Force fighter pilots do day to day. And he's shocked that, my God, you mean the rest of the world doesn't run this? Like, no, they don't run like this. And he's been in business for probably 25 years now, where 80% of the time is this, basically, yeah. So the kind of stuff that you do now, in some of those cases, then the question becomes: is you could take this to other people in your same industry, right? Or you could then take this maybe to a related industry.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. We're just about running out of time here, but there are a couple of questions that kind of just came up to me. How important is the internet in kind of branding yourself as an expert in either your personal or through your clients? How has that been a big effect for you using the online?
Right. So it's I've done it both ways, because some folks, like, they want to keep a lower profile. So if that's the case, you can still use the internet, but a little bit differently. But I would say overall, the internet has been an integral part of building my lifestyle business, because in the past I had to physically move, and I kind of got old. I've been doing this since the '90s. Back then we didn't have the ability to reach people. Like you and I right now are not in the same location, right? So the fact that we're using Zoom right here over the internet allows us to reach people. So I would say the internet is a key piece of this. Now, for me, the branding is a little bit different. When we talk about branding, you and I don't mean like, go spend thousands or tens of thousands on, some massive national logo, whatever, right? When we mean branding, we mean positioning yourself as kind of like the go-to expert in this, this venture, for example, right? Like, for example, the go-to person to basically improve your medical billing. It could just mean something simple as like, basically having a website where you contribute once a month or once a week, depending on, your how busy you are. So that could be as simple as that. I think we're both on the same page, and we don't mean creating this gigantic infrastructure, where you have like thousands and thousands of pages. We're not talking about creating WebMD here, right? So just we're on the same page, okay? You don't have to create anything near that elaborate. Usually a 3 to 5 page website, if even that, is sufficient. And then after that, it's just a function of having the right marketing activity to, to attract or basically reach out to prospective clients. And the things a lot of the folks I work with, they have a pretty lucrative business already. They're transitioning out or expanding. So usually we show them how to hire, how to basically delegate a lot of this, so they're not personally doing this, because it's, quite honestly, on an hourly basis, it's not the best use of that doctor or that specialist's time to do some of this work. And so there's ways to basically make sure that they use the best and highest use of their skill set and their time, especially during a full-time practice right now.
Right. And that's the thing. It doesn't take a lot of time to actually, set up a website, start up a Facebook group, establish your LinkedIn profile, but you're moving, you're getting towards something that you can actually take that information and actually start building up. So Alex, I know, this was awesome. You've shared a lot of awesome points and great information for our listeners. You'll be speaking at BootcampMD. That'll be coming up in San Diego in January 26th and 27th. There should be a link somewhere if you'd like to register. Can you give them a taste of what you'll be covering at the event?
Sure. Yeah. So we talked a lot about like this whole, this whole idea of like creating a lifestyle business, especially if, you're still currently practicing. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to take, people through this process called my lifestyle business formula. Like I kind of alluded to, right? What do you enjoy doing? What are you good or great at? And what's the market demand? Well, that's great. It's a great visual, right? But okay, what does that mean on a practical level? So I'm going to give very, very specific examples of different clients, in medical industry and outside of medical industry, of how they transition. Some people did it's kind of like a cold turkey. Or look, I want to drop that date. I'm going. I'm leaving. Others kind of did more gradually. And then the other big thing is like the biggest one that a lot of folks sometimes struggle with is like, well, what am I good at? I know what I enjoy doing, but what am I really good at? So they said, well, I know how to meet patients. And so they paid themselves to a corner and said, well, but here's a little exercise you can do. Maybe you're really, really good at, you said, reducing expenses, right? Especially in a medical practice. Well, there's a lot of people that's willing to pay money for that. It could be another medical practice. It could be a bigger organization. So, there's a process I take people through that it gives them an aha moment. And then the other thing that kind of fast tracked a lot of folks is I help them identify 5 to 7 very, very key, in marketing speak, they call them pain point. I don't want you to think it's physical discomfort pain, but the idea is like certain things that companies are willing to pay a premium for. And then I take them through a process like, here's what you're doing, here's what they need help with, here's how you translate, using simple languaging of how you tie what you do to what they're willing to pay money for. They're only spending money on it. Right. It's far easier to charge a lot of money. Versus I have this new invention, and it's like, well, I'm not spending any money on that. Now you got to do all kind of business cases, right? This one, they're already spending money on a weekly, monthly basis. So if you could tie your expertise and what you enjoy doing to this, speeds up the process by several months, some cases a couple of years. And so right out of the gate, then we're also going to talk about simple things you can do, kind of like we're talking about, like contacting local centers for like speaking opportunities. I'm going to share a couple of ways you can partner with somebody where people already have audiences that you can get in front of. So that speeds up the process as well.
And what's awesome about Alex is that he's always well connected. He's got some people that you mentioned like Sally. These are some big name folks that you were able to connect with that I'm sure you're going to also be sharing with you.
Yeah. I'll show you a simple process. What I do is like I call it value. I haven't quite got the right name for it, but the idea is like basically if you want to build a relationship with somebody, I show them the very simple ways of providing value first. So because people feel weird kind of asking somebody for help, or like I like this, and so I show them very simple things they can do. Some are very comical, but other ones, are also very, it's something you can literally do day in and day out. I mean, I've used this to get meetings with, people like Sally, who's a multiple New York Times bestselling author. I've used this to get in front of very, very high net worth individuals. I've used this to basically get in front of people who are potential investors, past companies I've had. So these are simple things you can do. Again, and the key is like I want people to know that I've worked with many people who have very demanding, very high demands on their time right now because they're running a practice or they already travel very heavily. So we got to figure out how to make this work in the lifestyle that they already have or that they want to create. So none of this is like, oh, you got to shut this down, to wait to do this. That's not in the cards for most folks. So.
And in turn, that of course helps your brand, and you have, it raises you up in terms of your expertise for potential clients when they see that you're working with all these rock stars and big time players there.
Yeah. I show them basically how to get what called marquee clients. The term I use sometimes called whale clients. Yeah. And probably and I think we both know that, and I won't spend too much time on this, but that's a big reason why Dr. Phil right now is so successful. I mean, basically Oprah was a big client of his. And he's reaching. I mean, I reverse engineer how that happened, but I can bring it down to a more practical level. I doubt most of us are going to be, working with somebody like Oprah anytime soon. But the idea is that there is something like an Oprah effect that you can create by just having one or two marquee clients, and that kind of work through some of the trade-offs.
You never know. She was just in Georgia, so
there you go. Hey, you never know exactly. But the idea is that they're called basically marquee clients.
Yeah,
it happens even. I've been in the tech industry for a number of years. It happens every big company. Every company would love to be able to brag, for example, if Tesla is a client, right? Well, there's a very strategic way to get Tesla if you want them as a client, or somebody like a Tesla. In our word, that might mean like an influencer that they can then open the doors to, right?
And I think I just purchased a Tesla, so I think that's why you.
Well, there you go. I visited their factory back in January with you.
You're right. Awesome. And again, if you want to connect with Alex, the great thing about this boot camp I'm putting together is Alex is very approachable. He's not like you go to an event, you never see the speaker again. Very approachable. You can ask him your thoughts, your ideas. I know he's going to be there. You're going to be there for the 2 days, correct?
Yeah, very much. Awesome. Yeah. Always a pleasure to come out. Yeah. I'm not one of those that kind of comes in, and then kind of like darts right out. I love mingling with the folks and find out how I can best help them.
And that's what it's all about, guys. It's about connecting. It's about networking. If you don't like the position that you're in now, you have to go out. You have to meet folks like Alex, who could potentially introduce you to some big time players out there. Again, it's all happening at BootcampMD. It's coming on January 26th, 27th. There should be a link around here where you can go ahead and get registered. Alex, thanks again for joining us. I look forward to seeing you in San Diego.
It's a pleasure, Mike, and I look forward to the same, and meeting your community as well.
All right, thanks.
So if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, I invite you personally to come down to San Diego to BootcampMD, coming on January 26th and January 27th. You'll be connected with like-minded entrepreneurs who will be sharing strategies, how you can increase the value that you give to the marketplace and improve your own finances. Missing this seminar, I honestly believe you'll miss hundreds of thousands of dollars. It can make that big a difference. Come and go to the link below. You can find out all the information about it, and I hope to see you soon in San Diego.